is. But I don't know, let's start maybe in the, can you guys throw in the chat, like, are you a graduate student? Are you a postdoc? Are you faculty? Anything, I don't know, anything you feel relevant to say? Postdoc, grad student. Okay, good. I'm seeing this. Great. We got so many postdocs here. Postdocing is a lonely time of life, but we're here for you. All right. We have a faculty and some postdocs and grad students. Great. Let me introduce a couple of helpers. Let me see, I'm going to start my slideshow here, and then it's kind of a special trick showing slides and being on Zoom at the same time, and it tends to slow everything down, but I'm going to try to do it anyway. Okay, are you all seeing that?
Yeah.
Great. So I didn't know what to call this presentation. I guess it's a workshop to make our plans, to make our writing and research plans for the year. So I called it Hello 2022-23, which is this academic year. And I have a couple of helpers with me. I have a couple of grad students who have taught, led writing workshops and who have helped people make IDPs and term plans for about, I guess this is their 5th year doing it. So Paulina and Jeff, can I ask you guys to introduce yourselves? Paulina, are you out there? I saw your name. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Looks like he's ready. Jeff, you want to go first?
Yeah, she had to step away for a sec. She messaged me in Slack. She'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jeff. I am a 5th year grad student in Barbara's lab. And yeah, this whole planning system, I guess, sort of like academically speaking, I sort of grew up with it. So I don't really know any other way. And from speaking with other people in the writing workshops that we've led, that's only sort of what made me appreciate like the value of it. Because for me, it was always sort of second nature to always be thinking like, okay, what's my long-term plan? What's my midterm plan? What's my short-term plan? So yeah, it's great to be able to introduce people to something that I've sort of taken for granted. Yeah.
All right. And okay, tell me when Paulina comes back, Jeff, and we'll have her introduce herself. But until then, I will move on. So, Paulina, you back?
Yeah.
Okay, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Paulina. I am going to be a 5th year PhD student here at UCI in the Cognitive Science Department. So Jeff is my academic twin. I work with Barbara, and I've been involved in kind of running or participating in some form of a writing workshop for over 4 years at this point. And I've really enjoyed it. It helps me keep track of my work, and it's allowed me to kind of meet new people and just kind of build a nice community of friends and peers who support me and I support them. And so it's fun to be able to always have a chance to talk to other people about some of the stuff we do in there, including IDPs. So yeah.
All right, thank you very much. All right, now I'm trying to juggle. I'm on a little laptop and I'm juggling, like I got the Zoom windows and I got my presentation window and I got the chat window. I am absolutely terrible at divided attention tasks. Like I score in the impaired range on divided attention tasks. So I'm gonna ask Jeff and Paulina to keep an eye on the chat and just like, let me know if there's something I need to respond to, and I'm gonna close it because otherwise I'll be constantly, anytime anybody puts anything in the chat, I will like stop the presentation and read it, and it'll be disastrous for everybody. Okay, so what we're gonna do today is based on stuff that's in the writing workshop book, which you are free to, you can read it for free and discuss it with your friends on perusall.com, which is awesome, which is a great site. And if you're not using it for teaching, I recommend it. It doesn't have any ads. It's free, and it's awesome. You can also download the full text of the book for free from the Open Science Framework at this link if you want to read it all by yourself, which sounds lonely to me and contrary to the spirit of the writing workshop, which is all about community, but you know, to each her own. Or you could buy a copy, but you don't have to buy a copy. Don't feel bad if you don't have any money. That's why I made it free. We are also going to be presenting to you this method of planning, research, and writing that we actually tested in a small pilot study, which you can see on, there's a preprint on Open Science Framework. I have, at the top, I have written, convince your administrator, because if you find the writing workshop thing helpful and you want to get, you can convince a faculty member to lead one in your department, or you want to lead one and you want some support from your graduate director or your PI of your lab or something, we have actual data showing that it's actually useful and helps people. And you can see the first 3 authors of this paper are me, Paulina, and Jeff. So we know what we're talking about here. So feel free to, if you need to convince somebody, download the paper, share it with them, make them give you coffee and donuts for your writing workshop meetings or whatever you need to do. All right. So now let's do word association. Is this working? There should be a thing that says you text, Jeff, Paulina, is it working? Is there, can you see a thing that says like text to oh, at the top, text Barbara Sarnecka 848. Oh my God, that's so long. Okay, I'm sorry, but you have to type in almost my whole name and the number 848, and then you text it to 37607. And then we will have interactive elements to our presentation, although, I could just ask you guys. If the poll everywhere is not working, I'm just going to ask you to speak with your actual voice using your microphone. What associations do you have with the idea of making a research or a writing plan? IDP, yes. IDP is an abbreviation for individual development plan. Fail, yes. That's the truth that we're getting to. People, scary. Yeah, this is good. This is honesty. We're having honest conversation here. Long-term, scary, accountability. I have to warn you, if you put more than one word, it will break it up, so it won't work. So one-word answers work the best. Good intentions. Yeah, although that sounds a little sad, right? Like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. This is good. This is great. Accountability. I see these things, good and intentions, but also a lot of like hard, daunting, scary, stressful, failure. Yes. I think the reason that most of us don't make plans is that we see it as a chance to fail. Like we see it as a way to put a bunch of idealized like to-do list on a paper, and then we won't live up to it and we will feel terrible and we will be upset. And I want to emphasize to you that that is not what it's about. It's definitely, there is no, it's not about accountability. It's not about accountability. You heard me right. That is what I said. It is not about accountability. You can change your IDP every single day if you want to. You can, if you said you were going to do something this week and you don't do it this week, change it, cross it off, make a new plan for next week. It's really not about punishment or giving yourself grades or scolding or thought you were going to do this and you didn't, bad, naughty, bad. It's not about that at all. It's about taking the cognitive load. It's about lightening the cognitive load that's associated with writing every day or working on your, when I say writing, I mean anything you have to do to publish research that you're an author on, or to publish or to create funding proposals that will fund your research, or to put your research out there, like conference papers, research publications, manuscripts, funding proposals, everything, qualifying exams, all that stuff. Okay, now I don't remember what my next slide says. I love these word clouds though, I could watch them forever. Okay, so why make an IDP and a term plan? What do you think? I hinted to you a minute ago what it is, and it's not about accountability, but I shouldn't have said that because I'm happy to get wrong things up here so that we can discuss them. Structure, productivity, structure. You can say more. You can have more than, this is an open-ended answer now. So I think you can put multi-word answers now. Okay, so I see a lot of organize and structure and productivity. These are good. These are good. Offload. Ooh, offload is getting close to what I'm thinking. Prioritize. Yes. Offload and prioritize and goals. Is it only letting you guys say one word? Will somebody try to write a longer answer? Because I thought this was open. There you go. Goal setting. Yeah, nice. All right. Yeah, you could write like a whole sentence, but that's all right. Okay, so people are saying structure, progress, goal setting, achieve goals. Okay, achieve goals makes me a little nervous. That sounds a little bit like accountability. This is not about, wow, beautiful. Oh my gosh, that is not only the longest answer, it is like my favorite one so far. Break up the task into manageable pieces. Yes, have direction, break it into, yes, breaking it into chunks. That's what we're talking about. It's not about beating up on yourself. Pretend like you know what you're, yes. Pretend like you know what you're doing. That's a totally reasonable reason to make a plan because you got to like do something, right? So you might as well make a plan and get started. And if it's not working, you can change the plan later. Okay, great. This is very good. All right, so here's my picture to connote climbing a mountain and breaking it into little steps. Breaking it into manageable steps. See, if you stood at the bottom of the mountain and looked at the top, you'd think, I cannot climb that mountain, that's way too high. But if you look at the steps, you think, okay, I can step on one step and then the next step and then the next step, right? So here's why I plan my writing and research, because it makes a hard thing like get a PhD or get a job or get tenure. Those are big, hard things like climbing a mountain. It makes them into easy things like revise the next paragraph of the methods section of this grant, right? It helps you not focus on a giant long-term goal all at once, which is overwhelming and you don't know what to do with your time and you don't know how to, what are you supposed to do? Like, how do you get a PhD? Okay, ready, go, get a PhD. Like, how do you do that, right? Like, where do you start? And so the plan helps you systematically think about, how do I do that? What do I have to do? Break it into seasonal goals, winter, spring, summer, fall, or if you're on a semester system, you could have fall semester, spring semester, summer goals. And then you break that into weekly goals on the term plan. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to walk you through this today. I plan because my time is limited and I want to spend it on what's most important, right? That's prioritizing. So those are the two reasons for me. Breaking a big, hard thing into a series of much smaller, easier to manage chunks, and also being intentional about how I spend my time. Because if I don't make a plan, then I just kind of like wake up and I start answering email and I like start prepping for the lecture that I have to give in an hour. And then I answer more email and then I like start reading some article. And then the end of the day comes and I haven't done any work on my writing. I haven't worked on like a paper that I'm revising or a grant proposal that I'm writing, which is actually the most important things that I have to do. Like I don't get evaluated professionally on how fast I return emails or, that I spend an extra 45 minutes on this activity that I'm going to do in class, prepping it, so it's just perfect and works a little bit better than it did last year. And so I plan because it helps me make a list of my priorities. And then I make sure to work on the most important thing first every day. I try to do an hour a day of working on the project that's closest to publication. And that's before I check email and before I do any teaching prep and before I have any meetings and whatever. So today we're going to help you make 2 plans. This is it. This is like the end of the lecturing part. I'm not going to make you listen anymore. I want you to make plans. We're going to help you because I've learned that if you just tell people how to make plans and then you say, okay, go make your plan. See you next week. Come back, show me your plan. Everybody comes back without a plan next week because it is like for some reason, even though it's not that complicated, it's really intimidating and off-putting and anxiety provoking and scary and weird to try to make these plans. So we're going to make them together. Look at that. We've only used 15 minutes of our 2 hours. We totally have time for you to make an IDP and a term plan today. All right. So the IDP is first. This is a plan that could be anywhere from 1 to 5 years, depending on where you are. Like if you're in grad school, you probably want to plan through the end of grad school. Like, so the end of it is where you defend your dissertation. If you're a postdoc, you probably want to plan through the end of your postdoc period. You know, if you're on the job market right now, you probably can only plan like a year because you don't know where you're going to be. So anything from 1 year to 5 years is fine in an individual development plan. And then you break it into seasons or semesters. We're on a quarter system, so we do winter, spring, summer, fall. But if you're on a semester system and you just want to do spring, fall, spring, summer, that's fine too. So you're going to have goals for the fall, goals for the spring, goals for the summer. And then we'll do a term plan. The term plan will just be for fall 2022. That's this term that we're starting now. And we're going to break down the IDP goals for fall 2022 into weekly goals for fall 2022. Okay, those are the two things we're going to do now. So first, we're going to do the IDP. So first, you have to choose a template, and I'm going to put in the chat a link, copy to the templates. Come on, chat. Here we go. So I hope that can work. If you go to this, it's a Google Sheet. And you see tabs at the bottom. There are like, there's a blue, here's a sample of one that's filled out. Here's a blank. There's a blue one, there's a purple one, there's a green one. So this one has teaching, research, teaching, and service of your faculty member. The blue one might be good. The purple one is good, I think. If you're a grad student with a lot of projects, so you've got a projects part at the top and a career part at the bottom. So the career thing would be like applying for internships, you know, job applications, going to workshops about, I don't know, career development things. And the projects here are your research projects. So here's a sample of one that's filled out, where you've got, these are the projects, all the projects the person was working on, and you can see how the bulk of the data kind of flows from the upper left to the lower right. And that's because we list these things in order of how close they are to being done, how close they are to publication. And you have your goals starting like the most current, the most right now, the most immediate ones are the ones that are closest to publication. So you can see on this sample, this project called Toddler DOMs. This was made in winter, before winter 2022. She had the goal of resubmitting the manuscript in the winter, and then revise and resubmitting it again in the spring if necessary. And then the next project was like, if once Toddler DOMs got resubmitted, she wanted to do Broom, which was resubmitted in the winter. So you can see, you're thinking this project, I'm going to do this first, and then the next project, and then the next project. Okay. We've also got, let me see, a green one. This was maybe a little less. It has fewer projects. If the number of projects on the purple one made you feel overwhelmed, you can pick the green one. Anyway, so you pick a template, and you go. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but if you select this corner up in the upper left, if you click on that cell that's above the number 1 and to the left of the A, you'll just select the entire sheet. So you copy. So Command C to copy the whole sheet, open up a new spreadsheet of your own, like a new Google sheet or a new Excel sheet, and just paste the template. I guess you want the blank one, sorry. You don't want the sample one, you want the blank one. So you paste the template into a blank sheet, and that'll be your blank one. Does that make sense to everybody? Somebody unmute and ask a question if you have questions. No one has any questions. Okay, so I think what I'll do is just, I don't know if you guys want to be, I guess we can all stay in this big room, and I'll put, I don't know, if somebody has questions, they can go in a breakout room. I can make breakout rooms for like Jeff or Paulina to go with you and help you start making, how start filling it in. So, but what you do is you just pick your template, whatever one it is. And here's I like this purple one. And you just start filling stuff in. So you just think, okay, like maybe under career, you start filling in your graduate milestones. Like, when are you gonna defend your dissertation? Well, hoping to defend my dissertation in, spring of 2026. Okay, put that there. Put defend PhD. And then, I don't know, is anybody lost? Are we good? Are you making? Put in the chat. Are you like, should I be quiet now and let you make your IDP? Or do you want me to like get a volunteer and help somebody start filling in their blanks so you can see how it goes? Andy Ribner, look at you. I haven't seen you in years. How you doing, Andy?
Hi, I'm great.
Hey, what's up?
How are you? I'm
Good.
so glad that you're here.
Yeah.
So question about how should we look at this if we're potentially in transition. So I would love to look at something that maybe has like a teaching area, but I'm not teaching this year. I know I will be teaching at some point in the future, but I don't necessarily know what those classes will be. Should I kind of make one and hold space, or should I be planning on a shorter term? What's your suggestion?
Yeah, I think, the point of the IDP, the answer is you can do anything that works for you, because the point of the IDP is that you don't have to hold all this information in your head. So if you're trying to plan, I think what I might do is I'd pick this one that has research, teaching, service, maybe just eliminate the service part because you don't have to worry about that yet. For teaching, just leave it blank for 2022, 2023. And then when you get to 2024, you could start typing in like, probably a class ? Something, like just to sort of whatever whatever you think is probably going to happen, you can just like put it on the plan wherever it seems to fit. And then you can change it every day if you want. You can change it every 10 minutes or every 6 months. Like it can, as you get more information and things get more firmed up, you can start filling things in and moving them to different cells. There is absolutely no expectation that this will become reality, right? That the plans we make today will be a true and correct and accurate prediction of how the world unfolds over the next 1 to 5 years. We don't expect that at all. The point is just that you don't have to do all this thinking every single day when you get up and try to decide, what should I work on today? I have an hour. What should I do? You don't want to be like, I'm on the job market and where will I be in 2 years? Like, no, you want to just be like, okay, I'm working on this paper. I'm modifying this, okay, so that's the point. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Good to see you again, Andy.
You too. Also taking this opportunity to revisit my last IDP and looking at how everything has changed.
Yes, but that's fine. That's totally fine. The problem is if you don't have an IDP, it's like you're trying to drive, from Alaska to the tip of South America without ever bothering to like look at a map. It's like you're just driving on the highway, and when you see exits that say south, you're like, oh, I should probably take that, right? Like I should probably go because I'm going south, so I'll go that way. And then just think about what a messy, long, badly organized trip that would be, right? Okay, somebody else. Anybody want to share their progress? Anybody want to show their IDP and get help, or go to a room and get help, a breakout room and get help?
I just have sort of a general question about how vague or specific, I guess I know that's probably the answer is probably it's up to you, but like typically, if you're saying you're working on a specific class or specific project, like is it just sort of the overarching like end goal you want to have reached by the end of that semester or term or whatever, or what kind of does that look like for you?
The IDP only breaks things into semester level goals. So it would be something like, you have this project, you want to like finish collecting data in the fall and write a draft of it and get it submitted in the spring. or like get it submitted in the spring and then revise and resubmit the following fall. We're not being any more fine-grained than that on the IDP.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. I'm reading the chat now because nobody's talking. Notion, I have heard of Notion. People love Notion. Thank you, Rebecca, for creating a Notion template for the IDP. Maybe, do you want to present it? Do you want to show
Sure.
it? I don't know.
Yeah, I was struggling with my mic for a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I don't know how to give you the chance to share.
I think if you click on share, you should see it. Oh, there we go. Awesome.
Oh, great. Thank you. I think Alexa made you a co-host. Thank you. Yeah, show us your Notion template for the IDP. That would be great.
Oh, okay. Oops. No.
And if folks just want to keep working on their own IDPs, that's fine too. You don't have to look at the Notion template if you don't want to.
Yeah, so actually Notion is something that I discovered this year, and I've been going crazy making templates. So when I saw a link to this meeting, I was like, oh, I definitely want to include this in how I organize my stuff. So this is what it looks like. It looks very close to what your templates look like, but here you have the chance to sort of organize what the different projects are. So here I have different categories such as like projects, side projects, PhD milestones, applications, worker teaching. So that's pretty much what you were mentioning right there. You can also change the order of this. So if you want to prioritize like PhD milestones, you can change it like this. So that'll be on the top. So I haven't quite figured out how to organize it the way that you organized it, but you can probably add a column with like priority and say like high priority, medium priority, low priority, and then change those priorities as you progress through your projects. So this is what it looks like. And yeah, I didn't read any further into the blog, but the way that I had organized it a little bit further was to have basically this all semesters tab. And then once I fill it out, I have a current semester tab that only filters out for the entries that I made for that the current semester. And then I have a tasks and meeting database where I enter all of my tasks and all my goals for that semester. And then I do that like iteratively.
So do you have a way, Rebecca, of breaking up? So for each of those like current semester milestones, do you have a way of breaking them into a set of weekly goals?
So the weekly goals would technically be tasks. So I think that would take a little bit more the accountability side of what you were talking about, but at the same time, what's fun about this is that you can look at it from a calendar view, and then if you don't, get your milestone or get your goal for that week, you can switch the date and just like move it forward a little bit. So for example, let's say that here I had, this is an example template. It's not my actual plan. But if I did tasks and meetings, and then I had a calendar. So this is what the calendar would look like. And let's say that I had, here my goal was to program this task for project X, and I didn't do it for this deadline, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and get, the last few things I need to do for that in the next few days. I can change the dates like that. So you can like throughout your semester plan out what your different goals are, and then sort of pre-program that as your tasks and have like due dates, but then change those due dates. It's a little bit annoying if you have to do that for all of your tasks. You can't like automatically change all of the ones after that. But yeah, I'm still discovering this system. So if it's helpful to anyone, this is what it looks like.
It's very pretty. Thank you so much for sharing. Who else is running into a problem we can help with? I'm guessing some problems people might run into are, I don't know what the program milestones in my program are. And so what you can do is just take your best guess. If there's anything you don't know, you just take your best guess. So probably your program has something like qualifying exams or comprehensive exams or preliminary exams or concentration exams, probably some kind of something you got to do in the first 2 years or something. And so you've probably heard about that. Put it down, put it in the semester that you guess, take your best guess about when you're supposed to do it. And you can always check this later with your advisor or with more senior graduate students who can help you know what the requirements are. You'll probably have to advance to candidacy somewhere around the 3rd year. You'll have to defend a dissertation proposal. Sometimes that goes along with advancing to candidacy. Sometimes it's separate. At the very end, you'll have to defend a dissertation. So you can put those things on, and then you can list, you probably have a project or two that you're working on. Even if you're only a 1st-year student or a 2nd-year student, you have like a literature review that you're writing, or you have like classes that you're working on. All right. Yes, is it Tay? Is it pronounced Tay?
Ty.
Hi. Yes,
but,
Ty.
Yeah, hi. So thank you. This has been really helpful. And also the Notion example is helpful too. I just use it for task list. I've never seen it in that format before because I'm still learning. So I'm gonna go and investigate that. So thanks for the template. So just a question about what to put on the IDP exactly. So in terms of projects, a lot of times it's like, okay, like this is your, you're here for like 2 terms, but maybe extension. So when it's like sort of, or some projects like you might join this or you might do that, would you like block that in just in case, or do you put that differently, or do you wait until it's just something that, you're for sure committed to? Like how would you put potential work, I guess, on this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would put it on there, like maybe I would put it in a lighter font, like a gray instead of black font, or I would put like a question mark after it or something. It's just to note, like, again, you're trying to put whatever information is in your mind, you're trying to not have to keep it in your memory. So you're trying to get it down on the page so that you don't have to be remembering it all the time. And so if there's a sort of chance, like there's a possibility that you'll be doing such and such, but you're not sure, you could note it and then indicate somehow that it's like tentative or not guaranteed. So sometimes I put things in like gray on my calendar instead of pink or something, whatever the normal color is, I have some muted pale version of that color to show that I'm not sure that it's going to happen. And I know it's really frustrating. I think one of the hardest things about the end of grad school and the postdoc period is just your life feels so up in the air, and it's just not, you don't know where you're going to be, and it's really hard to plan. But I actually think having an IDP and a term plan is even more helpful and necessary when your life doesn't include a lot of structure. Because when you're a postdoc in particular, and when you're a grad student after you stop taking classes, you often just don't have any structure in your day. Like there's not like a thing you have to do at 8 o'clock in the morning and a thing you have to do at 3 o'clock. Your time kind of belongs to you. And so you just have to impose structure where there isn't any. And it's particularly anxiety provoking when you don't know where you're going to be next year. You're applying for jobs, but you don't know if you'll be getting interviews. You don't know if it's just very crazy making and anxiety producing. And so I think having a plan is a way to kind of get an illusion of control over things. Like, okay, these are the things I'm going to spend my time on, because ultimately the only thing you can control is how you spend your time, right? You don't know what's going to happen with all the job applications. You send things off. You don't know if they're going to be accepted or rejected or revise and resubmit. You don't know how long it's going to be. You know how long the data collection is going to take. Like, so many things are out of your control. But what is in your control is like how you spend the hours that you have today. And so the IDP and the term plan are just a way of thinking through, like, how do I want to spend my time? What am I going to spend my time on? What do I want to accomplish this semester? And then we'll break it into weeks. What do I want to accomplish this week? And it's just like gives you a sense of being able to calm down and focus on one thing at a time. Ilsa.
Hi. I'm struggling with how to keep it like realistic for my own, because I tend to say, oh yes, I will do that all in the same term, but that's just not gonna happen, is it? So how do I make this realistic for me?
Well, it doesn't have to be realistic, because it doesn't matter if it, it's not going to happen. Even if you made the sober accounting of what is the highest probability series of events to happen this term, it still wouldn't happen like you predict, right? Because things pop up that you didn't know about, or things take longer than expected, or occasionally things get done faster than expected, or it turns out, whatever. Like, it's not going to, no matter what you write, it's not going to turn out that way. So the question is, how can you make the planning process most useful for you? And so I think the answer is prioritizing. Maybe you have 10 things listed and secretly, you're only going to get 3 of them done if you're lucky. That's okay. So you can still put your 10 things on the semester list, but make sure that the most important one to get done this semester is at the top, right? So even if you have 10 things done and you only get through 3, you want those to be like, which 3 do you want it to be? You want it to be the most important 3. I always make plans. Well, not anymore. I'm getting really good at it now. But years ago, I used to make ridiculous superhero plans too, like plans with, dozens of things. I was gonna leap tall buildings in a single bound. I was gonna collect all the data and write all the papers and submit them all. And I was gonna it was gonna be amazing. And no, I didn't. Of course, I live in the real world, and that stuff never happened. But it doesn't really matter if there are 10 things at the bottom of your list that you don't get to. What matters is that the thing at the top of your list, which is the first thing you're going to work on, is the most important thing. The last thing you want to do is spend your whole semester working on goal number 8, and then goals 1 through 7, which were actually more important to you, didn't get done. Yes, Jeff, you in the front row, Mr. Kuhn. Please.
Yeah, I would just build on that a little bit, where it definitely takes a while to sort of figure out what your planning tendencies are. And I eventually, I had sort of a similar experience as what Barbara's describing, where I would have these absolutely absurd plans of oh, wow, I'm going to get everything done in this one term. One way I've started compensating for that is front loading my planning, in the sense that I plan for the first section of whatever the unit of thing we're talking about is, and then I leave the back half open to basically recover from what was overly optimistic in the first half. And then another thing that I've started doing is adding an additional section for projects if I have time, where basically it's me acknowledging I'm not going to do this, but it's in a way that's more acceptable to me for whatever reason, because it's still on there. So
yeah, if magic happens and you suddenly have lots of extra time, you'll know what to do.
Yeah.
It won't go to waste.
Yeah, in the moment, for some reason, I'm like, oh yeah, it's on my plan. I'll totally get to it. It does not happen.
Are you finding, Jeff, I'm curious, as a new dad, are you finding since your baby daughter was born that you have more time, or?
No, I wouldn't say that. I'd say it's about being very. It's about being very particular in what I'm trying to do in any given moment. I don't have as much flexibility.
You have to be really intentional with your time. And I'm sure there are folks on here who have young children, or I had a baby during grad school and another baby when I was a postdoc. And, you realize you just cannot waste time. You just have to, you have a certain amount of childcare, or you have a certain, some hours in the day, hopefully, when somebody else is taking care of your baby, and you have to get everything done in those hours. Maybe that's when I got to be such a fan of planning. Okay, so let's, it's 10:40 at where I am. It's about 20 minutes to the hour. Where I am, it's 10:41 in the morning, but I know we're all in different places. please keep working on your IDP. Please raise your hand if you have any questions, or if you have private questions and you don't want to say them to everybody. We can create a breakout room. I can create a breakout room. You know what? I'll just make one and then create. I'll make a couple of breakout rooms in case anybody wants to go into one. You don't have to. I'll call one Jeff's room. I'll call the other one Paulina's room. All right. So let's just, we have, okay, bye, somebody's leaving. Bye, Valeria. Please keep working on your IDP. And if you need to take a break, if you need to go get a coffee or go to the bathroom or otherwise regulate your fluid levels, go ahead. And let's come back at the hour at 11 my time or whatever it is your time, and we will take these IDPs and we will make term plans. Okay, the term plan, that's where the rubber hits the road. That's really where it happens. The term plan is very exciting. So please go get yourself caffeinated, do what you need to do. We'll hang out. I'm going to hang out here. Jeff or Paulina and I will be here in case anybody has questions. Jeff and Paulina, we don't all three have to be here the whole time. If you guys need to go get a coffee or something, let's just make sure one of us is here all the time. So we still have 5 minutes left before we start the term plan part, but I'm curious, did anybody discover anything unusual? Okay, Christina, does the plan only involve my own tasks for projects that others are leading? Do I write up every task in the plan or only my tasks? Well, definitely start with your tasks. I would say for the IDP, it's super vague, right? Like it's just one semester at a time. So I would put something like finish data collection on project whatever, or write manuscript, data analysis, like that. It's not detailed. And then when we get to the term plan, you break it into weekly things, which is more detailed. But if you are managing, okay, for projects that others are leading, do I write up every task in the plan? I would say on your IDP and term plan, you write up your own tasks. And then if you are supervising other people, like research assistants or other grad students, then somewhere you have to write down their tasks, but it doesn't have to be on your IDP and term plan. It could be on like a task chart, flow chart, research, whatever, project management chart. So like if you have to keep track of it, then you have to write it down somewhere, but it doesn't have to go on your IDP and your term plan. So your IDP could just be like, manage XYZ project, super vague, super simple, just in the same way that planning turns big, hard problems into small, manageable problems. We also, the task of planning itself, we break into series of steps because it's just hard to be like, okay, I'm hoping to have tenure 7 years from now at a research university. So what do I do this morning at 9 o'clock when I have 45 minutes? Like, it's just really hard. Or to think about where you want to be long-term, what do you do today? So we break it into the IDP, which is like semesters, and then we break it into the term plan, which is week by week. And then that's the end of our thing today. But in our writing workshop, we also have weekly plans that break it into what we're going to do every day, just to help think through that. Christina, tell me about the plan that you're thinking of, the project that you're thinking of.
Yeah, it was actually this point. So like managing PhD students' projects, and this is also something like relevant to me, revising papers, commenting on designs, whatever, but it's not that I'm doing every step by myself.
Well, so on the IDP, are you jumping ahead and doing the term plan? Are you the kind of eager beaver that jumps ahead and starts early, maybe? Well, for the IDP, you certainly don't have to go into any detail, but I would say for your term plan, if mentoring students is part of your job, you could have a line, like the same way you would have a line for a project, you could have a line for each like student that you're mentoring. And for each week when we do the term plan, like let's imagine that I am actually mentoring Jeff and Paulina. Let's imagine that I wanted to put their stuff in my term plan, although they totally make their own plans. And I just like, I don't put them in my term plan, but let's imagine that I did. So I could have a row in my term plan that would be like Paulina's, stats survey project. And then maybe I would put it on there because I know that something will be required of me. Like Paulina says to me, okay, I'm going to have a draft written by week 5 of this quarter. So I want you to give me feedback then. So I might put it in my plan, like give Paulina feedback on draft in week 6 so that I can remember, okay, I have that in my calendar for that time so that I won't be super busy, right? So that I'll be available to help her. But you could also just put like we meet weekly with your students, and then in the meetings you could go over with them what they're supposed to do. I wouldn't like you to put all the tasks that they have to do on your plan, because psychologically that's like, are you going to consider yourself to have failed if they don't do what they're supposed to do? That seems like a bad recipe, right? Like, so this actually brings me to a very important point. A rule of making term plans in particular, because that's where a lot of the heavy lifting of breaking something up from a semester level goal to weekly goals really happens when you make the term plan. a big rule is you can only put things on your plan that you have control over. So you can't put things like paper will be accepted, right? Or like have excellent ideas, like have 3 brilliant new ideas, because you just can't, like, you can't make, it's like putting, you know, rain or the weather on your, you know, earthquake on your plan. Like you can't, it's not a plan. Like that's a wish. The idea that you're going to get job offers and your papers are going to be accepted and you're going to be invited to conferences and you're going to discover amazing things about the human mind and mathematical learning and cognition. You will crack the code of blah, blah, blah. Like that's all just, that would be great. That'll be great if that happens, but those are wishes. Wishes and goals are very different, right? Yes, MCLS trainee Alexa.
Hi. So in that line of thought, does that apply to papers where you are not first author? Like, so obviously you don't have control when you aren't necessarily first author or
right. Yeah, and even when you are first author, it's hard to plan sometimes because you don't know how long it's going to be before the journal gets, like, you submit something, you know, you're going to have to revise and resubmit it probably, but you don't know how long it's going to take them to get back to you. Right. So you don't know when to put on your plan that you should revise and resubmit it, because you don't know when your advisor is going to give you back feedback on a draft, or you don't know when the journal is going to return the revise and resubmit decision, or you don't know when. So the answer is always just take your best guess, put it on there for today, and then when you get more information, you can update the plan. The nice thing about making a plan is that you've said, this is my top priority project, this is my second priority project, this is my third priority project. And you've thought about that here today in our meeting, so that tomorrow, when you're ready to work on your first priority project, but damn it, your advisor still hasn't given you feedback on the draft, so you can't revise that paper, you know what to do. You go to project number 2, because you've already thought through what the order is. You've already thought through what your steps are. And so you can't do the first thing on your list, no problem. You go to the second thing on your list.
Okay.
You can't do that, you go to the third thing on your list. And that's why it's good to have a plan, because if you don't have a plan, you might have this vague idea like, well, I'm going to revise that paper. Like maybe Paulina is thinking, I'm going to revise my stat survey paper, but damn it, Barbara still didn't give me feedback on it. And then if she doesn't have a plan, she'd just be like, well, I'll eat ice cream, go to the beach, maybe I'll go to the fabric store. Paulina and I have a shared like addiction and weakness for fabric stores and craft stuff of all kinds. So if you don't, but if you have a plan, you're like, okay, my advisor didn't give me feedback on this paper, so the next thing on my list is this other project that I'm collecting data for, so I'll work on that until I hear from my advisor.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. There's a question from Sam. It says, yes, Andy says the second thing on the list should be attain fabrics. No, that way lies madness, Andy. We all have too many fabrics. Okay. How do we feel about breaking up projects and writing where there might be some duplication? I don't understand. Sam, please elaborate.
Hello. So here I'm thinking like, you know, if you have a project that has, you're tracking like data collection, all aspects of the project, but then you might have a couple of different papers coming out of a project. Sure. Would you pull out the papers so you can like individually track their submission a little bit easier?
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever, you know, there are no hard and fast rules here. It's just whatever kind of planning and level of planning makes it easier for you every day to like write every day. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm trying to think so I definitely have projects that are big data collection projects with lots of analysis going on, and then different papers kind of take shape out of them. And as soon as that starts to happen, then it becomes its own row on the plan, right? So
got it.
We just have a paper, I think it just got, actually you guys will appreciate this because this is MCLS. It's called The Real Preschoolers of Orange County, and it just got, I think, accepted today. I just got an email while I was getting the tea that it got accepted. Yeah, thanks, Andy. So that so if I have this big, it's a big project with like years of data collection, and there were lots of other papers that came out of it. So as soon as there's another paper that takes shape, you think, oh, let's do an analysis of the, lollipop task. And I bet we could write a conference, paper to CogSci about the lollipop task. Then it becomes a new row on my plan. Lollipop paper, lollipop conference paper. And I started thinking, okay, well, I want to submit it by November 18th. So that means I need to have a draft by this date, which means I need to do it yada, yada, and get feedback by this date, and you plan it backwards. And it's fine if there's duplication. Nobody's looking. You don't have to show anybody your term plan. There's no, you don't get in trouble for duplicating. You just have to think whatever's going to be most useful to you when you wake up in the morning and think, okay, I have some time to work. What do I work on? What do I do?
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Ty says, confused, internship is projects plus career development. Well, you can just pick. If you mean you don't know where to put internship, is that what you mean, Ty? I'm guessing that maybe time.
Yeah, sorry. It was sort of a follow-up to what Sam was saying. Like, it's just this internship is sort of, there's like different projects sort of happening within it. And then also when I was looking at the examples on the Excel spreadsheet that you had, career dev, it was a lot about like, apply for internship, do this, do that. So I was kind of like, okay, well, if I put this more in projects, because that's kind of how I initially had it, I guess I don't really know what should then fall in career development.
I mean, you don't have to put anything in career development. I think that the sample I showed you was just a student who was early in a year thinking, okay, I want to be working on some research projects. And I also want to be like doing some informational interviews with people in industry, because maybe I want to find out about potential jobs in industry that I might be interested in, or I want to be applying for some internships, or I want to be like, I want to build a website and a LinkedIn profile, because, so there were things that she wanted to do that year that were just not really scientific research projects. And so she made a section that was called career development, where she could keep track of the things she wanted to do. But if you're working, of course, all of us, if we're in academic positions like postdocs or grad school or faculty jobs, all of our scientific research projects are in fact career development, in the sense that we all have to produce research in order for our career to keep going and be successful. So
yeah, no, that's why I was a bit confused, but no, the website and the other stuff was kind of helpful. I guess I knew there was something that should be kind of going in career development,
it doesn't have to be. I mean, you don't have to be. If you're early in graduate school, maybe you don't have to be applying for internships or anything. Or if you're interested only in, like if you're trying to get a research postdoc and you're trying to do as much research as you can so that you'll be competitive, although applying for postdocs is probably something you have to do at the end of, school. That's like applying for jobs, applying for internships, applying for postdocs. That's not exactly doing research, but it's career development.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, now I had stuff on my to-do list that I didn't really know where they go, and they all fit in that. So great, thanks.
No problem. All right. Okay, so now everybody, we're gonna take the IDP that you just made, and it's okay if it's not gonna come true and it's not complete and you're not sure and things might have to move. That's okay. That's okay. Better to have some kind of plan, an incomplete plan, a tentative plan, than no plan at all. Just like when you write, it's good to generate a draft, and it's fine if it's total crap and it's word vomit, because it gets you something to start revising, right? And then you revise and you revise and revise, and that's the process. In that process is where all the ideas and thinking and breakthroughs happen. So I'm going to share my screen again. All right. And so let's say you were using this beautiful purple IDP and you've got it filled in like that, winter, spring, summer, fall. Then you can go to the matching. You don't have to do the matching. You can do it. You could choose a different template for your term plan, but I have for each of these color coordinated things, I have an IDP template and a term plan template. So let's go to the term plan. And what you'll notice is your fall 2022 goals from the IDP are probably column C. So if you select column C and copy, then you can go to your term plan and you can just paste column C into there. So you'll have to make select the template just like you did before. Select the blank sheet, make a copy, put it in a new tab of your own plan. So you have a term plan, a blank term plan. But then you can start by taking your fall 2022 goals from your IDP and putting them at the beginning of your term plan right here, fall 2022. And you can, I guess, probably also fill in the projects from column B. So maybe columns B and C you want to copy over. And then you go to the end of it here out at the end and decide how many weeks you want to plan. So I have it to 19 weeks on this sample. I think others go to 20 weeks or more. If you're on I encourage you to just plan through the end of your semester, through the end of your quarter, or through the end of your fall semester. So if you want to plan through week 15 or week 16 or whatever, just select and delete the rest of the columns if you want. And then for each of your goals, for each of your fall goals, this really would have been easier. I should have gotten somebody to volunteer. For each of your fall goals, you start thinking backwards. Like, okay, well, if I want to submit, let's say I want to submit that paper this fall. Okay, well, what has to happen before that? Well, before I submit it, I guess the step before that is like to have all my co-authors and my advisor and everybody sign off on it. Okay, so I'll put that in the week before I submit. What happens before that? Well, I mean, we're going to have a lot of rounds of revision. So I guess maybe halfway through the quarter, I want to have a complete draft that I can start circulating to each of my co-authors and my advisors. So I'll put that, in week 7 or something. Well, if I'm going to have a complete draft by week 7, I don't have a complete draft yet. So I guess I'm going to break up, between now and week 7, I'm going to try to be drafting that draft. So, let's say week 1, I'm going to try to draft the abstract, and week 2, I'm going to try to draft maybe 2 and 3, I'll do the lit review and intro. Week 4, I'll do the methods. Week 5, I'll do the results. Do you see what I'm saying? You have a goal for the end of the quarter, and then you start thinking, okay, what's going to have to happen to make that happen? And you break it up. Questions? If anybody wants to share their get help, if anybody wants to share their screen and show their goal and get help breaking it up into sub goals so that everybody can see how it happens, I'm happy to do that. But I know that this is a very personal, anxiety producing thing, so people might not want to share their plan. Questions? You know what, Andy? I don't think there is a sample term plan, and I'm embarrassed about that. I don't know if Jeff or Paulina has a term plan they could share. I can look at my term plan. We really should make a sample term plan. We probably do. I'll look. I probably have one somewhere. I'll look. I do have samples. I'll put them in the spreadsheet. Okay, I put a sample purple term plan. I'll find the others. Okay, I've put sample term plans for each of the colors, the blue, purple, and green. So if anybody wants to check one out. They're there now. So Andy asks, any suggestions if the act of making the IDP is resulting in building anxiety, you feel that you have too many things in the same column and can't move them elsewhere? Aw, Andy, I'm sorry. I think the thing to remember again is that the only thing you can control is how you spend your time. So you have a certain amount of time. By making the IDP, you are prioritizing and you're thinking about the most important thing that you want to do, and that's what you're going to work on first. And then the next thing, Rachel feels nauseated by the uncertainty. It is very scary. And the worst part about being a postdoc, I think, or to be at the end of graduate school or in a postdoc is like, it's just really, really hard to be an adult and not feel settled, like to not know where you're going to live in a couple of years and to not know what job you'll have and to just feel, it's just really hard. It's hard to not be able to plan. It's hard to feel like your life is up in the air. Maybe you have other people who you're trying to live with or raise or support, and like their lives are up in the air because your life is up in the air. It's just really, really hard. And that's why I think it's so important to just to not see this as being about accountability. Don't see it as like, this is the list of all the things I have to do, and if I don't do them, I will be a failure and I will beat up on myself and feel bad. That's not it at all. This is a way of facing the fact that you have a certain amount of time and you have a certain amount of energy, and a lot of things are outside your control, but the one thing that is inside your control is like, what are you going to do with your time? And so you have time today, you have time tomorrow, you can spend it on whatever is the most important thing to you. And the rest of it, you can hope it all goes well, but you can't, if you make your happiness contingent on it all going well, then you're kind of signing up to be unhappy. You're kind of like, it's like saying, I am going to be really happy if we get 8 inches of rain in the next 3 months and, these candidates are elected to office and these things happen in the world. Like, you can't make any of that stuff happen. Yeah. Marta says, having a lot of projects is actually a good thing. Yes. Having a lot of projects is a good thing. You don't have to get them all done. You just have to know what you're going to work on when you have time to work on something. Jeff.
Yeah, adding more to that, that just reminded me, Marta's comment reminded me that it ends up going both ways, where when we would share our term plans in writing groups, a lot of the newer grad students would feel intimidated by like how many projects were on the list. So that like stacking up of like, oh, I'm doing so many different things. Like on one perspective, it's like, oh, how am I ever going to cope with this? And then on the other perspective, it's like, wait, why don't I have that many things? So there's no way to be like happy with what you've got. But then the other thing I was going to say was that I feel like one of the important realizations for me with this whole planning thing was that I would avoid looking back at these because of sort of the shame that comes with not having accomplished what I meant to accomplish. And that sort of defeats the whole purpose. Like finding a way to get past that was like a really important aspect of this whole thing for me, where it's like, okay, you missed your goals, that's fine. Adjust your plan. Like, don't just avoid that as something that you're just going to shove under your bed and never revisit. And so one sort of silly thing I started doing was retrospectively changing my plan after the time had already passed to make myself feel better about what I'd accomplished. So I have these little, like, I'll turn things green when I've accomplished them. And if I wasn't able to accomplish it, I'll go back and change the goal and turn it green so that I don't feel bad about looking back at my plan. So just silly things to sort of decatastrophize when you don't quite make your goals.
I think that's a great idea. Hannah just wrote, I like to add a personal goal, which I have complete control over. And if I'm feeling super overwhelmed, I remember that personal growth and mental health is important too. And I can focus on that goal as part of my day and feel accomplished. I think that's great. I love that. I totally do that. I have on my phone, on the Notes app, a little table that I fill out every day that's like morning pages, which is free writing first thing in the morning. And then it's like walk my dogs. And then it's like eat breakfast. And these are totally within my control. Hey, Rachel, have a good teaching. I got to turn the chat off. I can't, I told you guys I cannot ignore chats. Okay. So I have things like walk my dogs on my list of things to do, just because it helps me stay centered in the day, and helps, and it just reminds me that like these things that we do to be happy and healthy, like get up, do some meditation, walk my dogs, eat breakfast, work for an hour on that grant proposal, answer email, like I find it comforting to just like think this is my list and these are what the things I'm going to do and I'm doing them. I don't know, maybe I like, and it's not about accountability. Like if I miss walking the dogs, I don't go like, oh, damn it, I didn't walk the dog. Well, I mean, I always walk the dogs because they demand it. But like if I miss working for an hour on the grant proposal, I don't beat myself up about it or go back and be like, oh, rotten bad. You know, that's fine. That's fine. It's just to help me remember what I was planning to do. But Andy, I know it's hard to get used to this way of thinking, right? If you're not used to it. We've all been practicing for years. It takes time if you're used to thinking of lists as like to-do lists, as things that make you feel bad, that are like should and expectations that you can fall short and then beat yourself up about, it can feel really, I think that's why when we did the word cloud at the beginning, so many people were writing words like daunting and scary and bad and guilt and stuff, but keep trying.
Can I say something related?
Yeah, of course.
So I've had a hard time doing term plans kind of in the exact way that they were initially taught to me, mostly because we kind of talk about them as having like a fixed endpoint, like the end of the quarter, the end of the year, like the end of some kind of time point, except at least for me, the what's very salient about my work is that it never has a super fixed endpoint unless something has like a submission deadline or something, but otherwise it's just continuously making sure I'm working on something. And so what I've started to do when I make my IDPs and term plans is, instead of kind of having like a fixed end, like by the end of the quarter, what do I need to do? It's more like, here's the first month of the quarter, and here's all the time I have, here's all the things I have to do. I'm just going to pick one or two things off of this and just kind of fill my time. And I know as long as I'm working on it, progress will be made. And I just kind of do that every month. And so I break it down even smaller, basically. And I don't think of it as the end of the quarter. It's just, here's the first little time period. I'm just going to keep working along and then kind of come back and check and be like, okay, cool. Like I actually got a lot of stuff done. And then I'm just going to pick something else and just kind of keep going along. And so again, unless there's a fixed deadline, I kind of have started thinking of it as just, I just keep going. And then I don't have to feel bad about not meeting a goal, because I'll still meet it. It just might happen in a slightly different place without kind of messing up my overall progress.
I totally agree, Paulina. Thank you so much for adding that. That's the way I think of my plans too. I rarely think of semester goals or weekly goals even. I generally think about, did I write today? Like either you wrote today or you didn't, you know? And if I'm doing really well, did I write for an hour today? And I just kind of trust that if I work for an hour a day on the project closest to publication, like everything will be fine. I'll get enough done, like everything will work out okay. But the reason that we do the IDP and the term plans, especially with folks who are new to it, is that as grad students, some folks aren't used to even thinking about plans. Like they'll come into our, Jeff and Paulina have seen this a lot, they'll join one of our writing workshops and they'll be like, well, I just don't need to write. I don't have anything to work on. And we'll be like, really? Nothing to work on, huh? Like you got nothing to write. You don't have to produce a literature review by the end of the year. Well, yeah, but that's not until the end of the year, you know? Don't you have to do qualifying exams? Yeah, but I mean, next spring, I don't have anything to write right now. And we're like, you could be working though right now. And so we use the IDPs and the term plans to help people kind of get their mind around what the big picture is. But I think what Paulina's describing, and I experienced this too, probably Jeff does too, is like, once you're used to doing that, you kind of always know what your big long-term plans are, what your medium-term plans are. And then you really spend most of your attention and your focus on just like, what am I doing today? What am I doing this week? Did I work for an hour today? Yes, I did. Okay, then I'm going to have lunch and I'm going to check my email. And I'm going to feel okay because I did an hour of work on that grant proposal. It's going to be fine. All right, so I will move on to the end of the presentation. And I know you all may be, I'm hoping that you're all very absorbed in your term plans, because term plan making is a wonderful, transformative act that gives you a lovely sense of direction and control over your life in a good way. So here we are in the presentation. We have been drafting our term plans. And the next bonus is you get to go impress your advisor or your PI when you've finished, if you want to. I don't know what kind of relationship you have with your PI or advisor. Sometimes these are fraught, difficult relationships, but if you think it would impress them and you feel like it, I encourage you to take your term plan and your IDP to your next meeting with your advisor or PI and just be like, okay, here's what I envision myself doing. Here's what I laid out for this semester. Does this all look reasonable to you? What do you think? And your advisor will be like, oh my God, you're amazing. Can you teach me how to do that? And they will see how much initiative you have and how you're taking charge of your own career and you're making things happen, and it'll be awesome. All right, so I would like to know now, word cloud, one word answers, please. I would like to know how you're feeling now. I want to compare this to the word cloud that we saw at the beginning. Woo, surprised. Bye, Rebecca. Oh, cautiously optimistic, motivated. This is lovely. Yay. Commiserate. Yes, misery loves company. Surprised, invested, motivated, understood. Oh, these are great. These are all such positive words. I'm really happy to see these positive words. I don't know if you guys remember, the word cloud at the beginning was full of much more negative words like fear and daunting and worried, and yay, these are much better, happier words. I'm delighted. Now I feel like our IDP and term plan making workshop has been a success. Hooray. All right, well, I'm hanging out here. We've got 15 more minutes, so feel free to go if you have somewhere else to go, or to hang out and chat if you have more questions for me or Jeff or Paulina, or you just want to watch the word cloud move. I do enjoy looking at a word cloud.
I actually have a question that's like kind of related to I mean, it's definitely related to the goal setting, but I'd just be curious to hear about other people's processes for setting goals at these different grain sizes, right? So like a goal of submitting a manuscript, obviously, and then breaking that down into like weekly goals, or even breaking that down into like what I can accomplish in an hour, right? So that's sort of one piece that I was interested in hearing other folks sort of process with. And then I guess the other question that I have that's a little bit also related, but a little different is, you know, you had mentioned that you kind of start with the project that's closest to publication, but then I guess that's one way to sort of define priority, right, as far as being productive. But then how do you kind of make sure that the stuff that's lower on your list, for me, I keep getting these things that you know, are either put on my plate that then ultimately end up closer to publication, and then there's like my master's research, which at this point is from like 2015 that I still haven't published, and like I just can't bring myself to come back to, and it's a whole thing. So just how do you kind of make sure that those things don't fall through the cracks?
Well, okay, first I wanna acknowledge actually before I just stopped sharing the word cloud, but I wanted to acknowledge that there was an overwhelmed. Somebody put overwhelmed, and I don't know who wrote that, but I want to say I'm sorry that you feel overwhelmed, and please hang out and talk with us. Jeff and Paulina and I are happy to talk with you about how to, try to breathe and, take it one step at a time. The key when you feel overwhelmed is just to recognize you do one thing at a time. You just have to figure out what you're going to do today. And then tomorrow, you don't have to do everything at once. You don't even have to make a term plan in an IDP today if it's scaring you. You can just like hide them. You can hide them deep in your Google Drive and go take a nice walk and drink a cup of tea and then, come back to it. Okay. Okay, so Marta, you're saying, how do you make sure you get all those things done? Well, maybe you don't get them all done, right? You get the most important thing done. You have 24 hours in a day and 7 days in a week, and you don't want to spend all of them on work because you got to sleep sometimes and spend time with people you love and animals, and you got to go to the fabric store, and there's like a lot of important things you have to do. So there are things, I have collected data that if I had more time, I would have turned it into a paper and published it at some point, but like, it was never the top priority. It was never the most exciting thing that I had going, and it'll probably never be published. Some things are good ideas, or they seem like good ideas, and you collect the data and then you analyze them and like, meh, and then something else happens and like, that's better. So you work on that instead. If you find that you are starting lots and lots of projects and then getting distracted by some shiny object and abandoning your projects, then I would say that's not good. So if you feel like, okay, I'm having a bad pattern here where I'm just, because every project starts out, it's really exciting, it's really easy to work on. And then in the middle, it gets weird and confusing, and it's not like you planned, and it's not making sense, and it's not coming out. And was this a good idea? And why did we do this in the first place? And like, it's very tempting to abandon projects somewhere in the middle. And so that's why I try to discipline myself to work for an hour every day on the one that's closest to publication, because that stops me from working on the new thing that is like more fun and exciting, and like having 1,000 half-done projects and nothing ever finished. But if you have something that got put on your plate by somebody else and it's closer to publication, like they've invited you on as a co-author, you have to be an author on it though. If you're not going to be an author, then it's not your work. It's like it's teaching, or it's meetings, or it's mentoring, or it's helping somebody else. So that doesn't get top priority. You have to spend an hour a day on the thing closest to publication that you will be an author on, or that will be a grant proposal, the funding proposal that will fund your work that you will be an author on. Okay. But if somebody else puts it on your plate and says, well, hey, come and be the second author on this thing, like it's kind of stalled, but if you can help us get it finished and submitted, you can be an author and it'll go on your CV and it'll help your career. I think that's a totally reasonable thing to spend your time on. And and then if you have another thing that's going to get published and help your career, and then if you have another thing that's going to get published and help your career, like that's where your time should go. And maybe you'll never get back to your master's research because you'll always have higher priority, more exciting, more career developing things to do with your hour a day or 3 hours a day or whatever you've got to put into it. And I don't think you should feel bad about that. I think your time is valuable, Marta. You're a busy woman.
I think you're the only person who thinks that. Thank you.
I'm not a fan of feeling bad about anything.
Thanks, Andy.
Having said that, this Real Preschoolers paper, I think I collected those data. I started collecting them like 10 years ago and finished collecting them like 5 years ago. And I just could not make myself write that goddamn paper. I don't know why. I couldn't make myself write it. And I remember visiting the University of Maryland and talking to the grad students there, and Nicole Scalise, who's a student of Geeta Ramani, was like, hey, when are you going to publish those data? We're really excited to see them. And I was like, right, yep, any day now, soon I'm going to, yep, sometime. And I could not work on them. I don't know why. I have some massive psychological barrier to working on them. And then Nicole graduated with her PhD, wrote an NSF postdoc, came to work with me, and ended up finishing the paper for me. I said, Nicole, please, can you make this paper? Can you midwife this paper into the world, please? And she was like, you bet I can. And she provided the initiative to just like get it done. And now it's done. And she's an author on it. And so maybe, Marta, you will have a fabulous graduate student or postdoc who comes along and is like, I really am interested in these data. I would like to help you finish this paper. And you'll be like, yeah, that'd be great.
That's actually a good way to think about it. I'll just have something for a postdoc to do someday. Cool.
Really? Postdocs need things. All right, I think we're just about out of time. Yes, wait until I have a faculty job and then get a postdoc, Martha. Yes, precisely. Or you could also just, I mean, I feel you though about the not wanting things. I don't like to waste anything. So if I collected data and I analyzed it, I kind of feel like, I don't want to give up. I don't want to give up. But the way I think about it, like the creative process is like blossom and prune, right? If you think about how brains grow, right? There's all this synaptogenesis, all these neurons blossom and grow like crazy, and then you prune back the ones that you're not using. And I think of the writing process that way. I generate tons and tons of material, tons and tons of text, and then I go through and cut back what's not sort of doesn't belong there to make the argument clearer and shape it. And maybe research is like that too, right? Maybe you have 1,000 ideas that just cross your mind when you're like chatting with your lab mates over coffee, like, oh, we should do this, we should do that. And maybe 100 of them you actually think about far enough to be like, how would we collect those data? And then maybe 10 of them you actually collect the data. And of those 10, maybe 5 of them you write up and publish, and the other 5, like, meh, after you collect the data and analyze it, it's like, you could write that, but you have something better to write. So, but the key is you're not, like Paulina said, you have something to do with your time every day. You have a certain amount of time to work, and you are spending it working on high priority stuff that serves your career, advances your scientific, profile. And if there's stuff in the background on the back burner that you never have to dip into because you have so much other great stuff to do, good, great. You got so much stuff to do. All right, seems like everybody's done. People don't have any more questions. Is that correct?
Looks like it. Thank you so much, Barbara. This was really, really great. And thank you, Jeffrey and Paulina, for also joining. I already feel much more accomplished after this. I hope everyone else does too. And this is going to be recorded and posted. So if you guys want to just revisit it and maybe just take the time to work during this hour and a half or whatever again too, we can do that as well. Do you have anything else you want to say, Barbara? We just want to thank you so much. This was great.
I'm so glad it was helpful. Everybody stick with it. Get with your friends and update your term plan every semester.
All right. Have a good day, everyone. Thanks for joining.